Hi.
Jane,
Um,
hi. You're working.
my name is Jane. I am a senior concentrated in finance and accounting for finance and consulting. So my interest really started at the beginnings when I was involved in BC Investment Club, and then I also took tech track and involved in State Center. So then I started thinking about the career and technology and also financial markets. So in the past, I have interned in an asset management firm doing equity research, and then I also work in a startup. And then the most recent summer, I interned at Deutsche Bank in sales trading and structuring division. I think all the concentration that I picked, finance and accounting for finance and consulting, prepare me very well with that internship. So if you have any question, feel free to email me and ask.
Okay. And you've done such a wide range of things. So sounds like, so I'm gonna kind of go in reverse order. I'm gonna keep you on if that's okay, and go kind of into the next question, which is just to talk a little bit about, I think that that co-concentration, specifically accounting for finance and consulting, has gotten really popular. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, maybe you haven't had all the courses yet, which is normal, but what you know of it and why you decided to do that one.
Yeah, for sure. So the accounting for finance and consulting concentration is actually having four courses. So it starts with the first one, intermediate accounting. And also you can do an alternative is to do Fast 1 and Fast 2. That is what I did. And I think both can prepare you really well, whether you wanted to go into a more in-depth analysis of accounting. And then you go into the second elective as financial statement analysis or managerial cost analysis. I did financial statement analysis. It's because it's really good to help you do fundamental analysis. And me personally, I really into investment and looking at financial statements. So that is a perfect courses if you wanted to know more about what are some of the accounting distortions can have within the three statements, and help you build a better decision in investment making. So and then later on, you also need to choose two electives. So what I choose was for forecasting technique, and then investment banking. So for the forecasting technique, it's more in the intersection of statistic and also kind of fundamental analysis. Basically, if you are really into statistic analysis, it's really great because it basically help you to look on the past performances and use those knowledge and information to predict the future performances, which is really great because when you're doing DCF or any kind of valuation model, you always need to have a view and what the companies or the business will perform in the next 5 to 10 years. Right. So basically, yeah, it's a perfect course for any sort of things you want to do in IB or in sales and trading or just doing asset manager. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. That was very, very thorough. Great. All right. Grace, you want to talk, since we're sort of on the accounting, just talk a little bit about the differences between the two.
Between accounting and finance?
No, I mean, just sort of you were doing the accounting for the CPA track versus accounting for finance and consulting.
Oh, yeah. So accounting for CPA, I went through recruiting for then like audit and tax positions, like the kind of positions where you would need your CPA in order to get past a certain level at those companies in those jobs. And yeah, then you take your CPA. I don't really know much about the finance and consulting side.
Yeah, so you don't even have to, okay? You don't even
Okay.
need to distinguish. So I guess the main thing is like, so for a lot of, you're not taking tax, you're right, and you don't have to, so basically the difference would be your, the focus for what you're doing is basically to work in public accounting.
Yes, and I am
Yeah.
taking tax. But yeah,
Okay,
you would
yes.
pick like if you want to go into audit, or if you want to go into tax. And then when you go through the recruiting process, the Big Four are really good about having info sessions on the two topics, or if you want to go into advisory, they have info sessions for you. And then usually at networking events, they'll have people from each department that you can talk to, from all ages, like partners or like first year associates, that you can ask them all different types of questions. And then also the other thing that I've been learning that's super nice is, especially with the Big Four, because they're so big, if you say like choose tax, which like or I chose audit as a sophomore, but it's like if then I did my internship in audit and I realized like, whoa, I'm so much more interested in tax, or like then I did take tax, which I'm taking this semester, so like I hadn't even taken tax or audit before I went through recruiting. They are so good about getting you to where you're going to want to be, because then that's where you're going to do your best work, and they have the resources to get you where you want to be, so you don't have to feel stuck at all. Or especially like if you're going through recruiting and you're like, oh man, like I'm going to pick the wrong one, like there isn't a wrong one. You're going to gain a good experience from it no matter what, and then you're not going to be stuck there forever.
Great, that's a good point to make. Thank you. And I think that one, big distinction too is it's such a clear-cut track, and that the faculty are really supportive of how, like you said, getting you there too, which is an important distinction to make. So great.
Exactly. You can, especially at BC, like I know some schools, it's like if you want to go into accounting, they kind of force you down the 5-year track. At BC, they really do everything they can to get you to graduate in 4 years if that's like what you want to do, especially because if you talk to the recruiters at the firms, they do not really care if you have a master's, so long as you have your 150 credits and your CPA. And there's no financial benefit from it. You get the financial benefit if you finish your CPA within 1 year, then usually there's like a couple $1,000 bonus associated, but nothing for the master's really. So BC is so good about figuring out how you can work 150 credits into your 4-year plan.
Which is valued by parents as well for not having to spend that additional money. So awesome, thanks. I'm going to go back and look at my window. So Jillian, I see you next, so I'm going to pick on you next.
Sounds good.
So you'll talk a little bit about kind of your concentration and co-concentration too.
Yeah, so I knew that I definitely wanted to work in the sustainability sphere. And I started off working out a nonprofit, and I realized that wasn't necessarily for me. So I thought that operations would be a good way to do that at like a public company and in more of like that type of level. And I thought supply chain was really interesting because so much of sustainability intersects different aspects of the value chain. So I thought that that was a good way to kind of complement the two and get a really strong foundation in operations. I love the Managing for Social Impact program. I couldn't speak of it any more highly. I've had a really great experience just because it is an interdisciplinary minor. So you have to take courses from at least 3 different academic departments. So I've been able to take courses. Right now I'm in an environmental law course that was taught by a former EPA lawyer, but I've also taken courses in philosophy, and I've taken courses in information systems and economics. And I feel like it's given me a really holistic view. And then when I combine that with operations, I feel like I'm able to make connections in different classes.
Okay, great. When do you need to apply to get into that? What do students need to know about it?
Yeah, you do need to apply to get into the Managing for Social Impact program. It's a pretty simple Google form. I would recommend, I think I applied, I believe my sophomore year. I can double check on that. But I would recommend setting up a meeting with Professor Germain, just because she is so incredible and she leads the program, and she's just a really great person to get to know too. So if you have any questions with the application process.
Okay. And so there's a question in chat about MSI minor versus major. There isn't a major, is there?
No, you can either co-concentrate or minor. The minor is more classes, and you can, because it's interdisciplinary, you can actually drop a CSOM core with it.
Okay, so that's a distinction there. Okay. And then, and also there's students from MCAS in that as well, right? So it's, they can cross pollinate.
No, a
Okay.
lot of the times I'll be the only CSAM students in the elective classes.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Great. Jenny.
Hello.
Hello.
Is there anything particular you want me to?
Yeah, if you want to
touch
just
upon?
talk specifically about your, oh, you know, I already asked you about your concentration, didn't I? Like about how you, what you had to take for it. Sorry, I skipped. Too
No,
many
it's
people.
okay.
Well, why have you on? Why don't, and I'll go to the next question with you, and then I'll try and remember that I asked you that.
Okay.
So in terms of just an example of like, you would like this concentration if you are blank.
Okay.
If you like, whatever.
Yeah, so I'll do one for like marketing and then one for information
Yeah,
systems.
that'd be great.
So for marketing, I would say you would like it if you think you're creative and analytical. I think it gives a really good foundation in terms of being able to have those analytical skills and be able to think critically. However, if you do have a different side to you where you are, you know, a bit more creative and innovative, I think that's a really good match. And then for the information system side, I'd say if you don't like technology, I wouldn't necessarily recommend info systems. Just because there is a really strong foundation as well that we built here at BC in terms of being able to, you know, use different platforms and software. So you have to take a Python class. So with Professor Sturpey, you also get a strong foundation in using SQL as well. So I guess those would be my if you like marketing or if you don't like technology, don't do info systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like from your perspective, I think like for info systems, what are your, you know, I think a lot of people are, you know, you're not going to be coders. Like, so what is your understanding of like what they're trying to develop you to do within that concentration?
Yeah. So this is actually part of the reason why I decided to do information systems. So I'm definitely not a hard coder. I find coding very challenging. It's definitely something that a wide range of companies are looking for though. Like if you have on your resume that you have, you know, foundational knowledge in Python and SQL, like those are definitely pluses and very positive things for you. But to my understanding, because you're not a hard coder, but you do have that knowledge and base, it's almost as if you're like a middleman. Like you're able to look at a piece of look at code and be able to decipher and understand it, but you might not have like the actual ability to create like the entire code and structure it. So I think that's like the best way to describe it. You're a middleman in between like the team and the coders.
Okay, great. That's a good way of explaining it. Okay. Thanks. All right, I'm going to hop over to Kyle now, talk a little bit about your experience with, you know, entrepreneurship. And Kyle, did you say, are you doing the IS as well?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. So maybe you can add to what Jenny was saying about that too.
Yeah, I would absolutely second what she said. I think that IS is like coding light. That's kind of like what I would call it. And I started as a econ major and then a marketing major. And so like, I didn't really know what I wanted. And then I found the entrepreneurship concentration and the classes, and I think the stress on the entrepreneurship program here is really on kind of like being well-rounded in terms of your business sense. So you get a lot of focus on problem solving with the classes that you take. Entrepreneurial management is one of them. There's a big focus on like being able to see the bigger picture and solve those greater business problems. And there's also a lot of focus on kind of the tech side of that too. Tech track is a really great class. The entrepreneurship track is lucky because we have the Shea Center. So that's kind of like backing up a lot of the courses and content that we have available for us. And so Tech Track, for example, is a class that I'm actually in right now, and you get exposure to really all parts of the tech world, whether it be startups or like really established large companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter. And so those classes are really helpful in just kind of giving you a sense of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, and just to have that mindset. I think that's the biggest thing that they try to focus on, just having that mindset of problem solving, being creative. And I think that leads really well with the IS co-concentration. I know for me, I want to be in the tech world. And so to have both that overarching like problem solving mindset, but then also to be able to understand the technology that's going on is really important, and really what a lot of companies are looking for.
Great, that's really helpful. But also it's important to mention too that if it's not technology, that there's room for you there too. I think they want,
definitely.
yeah.
That for me, it's definitely more focused on technology, but I think the nice thing with an entrepreneurship co-concentration is you can really do anything with it. No matter what position you want to have, like that mindset is really critical in any company that you go to. I think everyone is looking for people that can solve problems and think like an entrepreneur.
Right, great, thank you. Now there's Ryan looking like Batman outside during the fire drill, so maybe we'll pick on him next. He is having a fire. Can you even talk, Ryan, because of your fire drill?
Oh yeah, can you guys hear me now?
We can, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, our building is doing a fire drill right now, so I had to move places. But so, do you want me to touch on the real estate classes first, or?
Yeah, I think there's
Okay.
less information about that than I think people hear a lot about finance, but not as much about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, we have a Corcoran Center for Real Estate and Urban Action here at BC, and it offers students an insight on the commercial real estate world, and also kind of gets into some of like the social impact and urban planning / design that's offered. So it's really awesome because even if you don't know if you want to do real estate, these classes are very informational, not extremely difficult. Real estate itself is a pretty straightforward subject. So it's a good opportunity for students that want to learn more about the space and see if it'd be a good fit for them to take like an intro level class. Two of the main intro level ones are real estate fundamentals and real estate development. So that just kind of covers a very holistic approach to commercial real estate. And so if you do end up liking those, there are like higher level real estate classes you can take, like real estate finance is a finance elective that you get credit for. There's real estate field projects, which is like a senior capstone project. And then on the urban action side, there's Urban Action Lab, which I did last year, where I worked with a housing authority to come up with solutions to real world problems that they had. So there's a bunch of great opportunities there. So if you're interested, I encourage you to reach out to the Corcoran Center, and I believe on their website they have more about their classes. But I'd also be happy to put you in touch with people if you're interested. So just feel free to shoot me an email afterward. But
That's great. And it overlaps well with finance too, because you've got some of the classes that you're knocking off too, right? Or at least.
Right.
Yeah.
So finance is a very like useful degree because it can help you in any type of business, I would say. But real estate in particular, the financing of large assets is like almost all from a finance degree perspective. And then there's also like accounting and legal stuff. But with my finance degree, it's paired up really well for what I'm doing, which is real estate asset management. So we look at properties that we're going to invest in. We like look at similar DCFs as like an investment banker would. We manage cash flows, try to cut expenses. We're looking at a lot of similar numbers just for a tangible asset, which I find really unique. So yeah, like finance is paired super well with what I'm doing. And I know there's tons of different routes you can go in real estate, but pretty much all of them, I would say that finance is probably your best bet for like a major to pair it with. So
Great. That's helpful. Thanks, Rye.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So Jacob, we'll go to you next. Talk a little bit about both of your concentrations.
I started out marketing. I knew I wanted to be marketing all the way through, and actually stumbled upon management and leadership at the beginning of my sophomore year. I needed to take a CSOM elective class, and there was a leadership class open once a week. at like 9:30 in the morning. I think I remember it being, and it fit my schedule. And I walked in, and like 2 weeks later, I was like, whoa, like I want to do this for the rest of my 3 years here now. Because marketing is very, I mean, it's like the age old, everybody, if you're selling something or bringing anything to market, you need to be able to market that product and put a face and put a smile and give it some kind of personality. So to me, marketing just made sense because it's almost like a universal practice. No matter what industry you're in, even the big accounting firms have marketing divisions because they need to market themselves to other people. So it was something that I knew BC had a great program for it, and I knew that it was something I wanted to do. And management and leadership was something that I picked up as a co-concentration that actually really paired well with what I was studying in marketing, because marketing as a study, as a business practice, is so focused on human interaction and team interaction. And actually management and leadership at Boston College, similar to entrepreneurship, like Kyle described it, is very almost open-ended in what you can do with it. It focuses very heavily on team dynamics and how certain types of teams, whether they're diverse, high-powered, things like that, interact with each other, and how you can lead, be an effective member of those teams, and just add that dynamic to yourself as a future employee, but also as somebody that's entering a very diverse, very global world of work. So I had to pull up my 4-year planner to look at the classes that I took in management and leadership, and I'm glad I had it because they were all like you can just take such a wide variety. I took a leadership class. Right now I'm in a strategic management and an entrepreneurial management class, so I'll actually be lucky enough to finish my concentration this semester, one of them at least, as long as everything goes well. So that'll be good. But I was also able to take a management class about tourism abroad, and it's just a great department. Everybody's so helpful, and even going abroad, I was able to make a few calls, sit down with a few people and say, hey, I really like to add a class for the concentration while I'm abroad. Can you suggest anything? And I actually sat down with professors, looked at class schedules for Rome, which is where I went, and we settled on this HR management in service and tourism operations. So there's such an open and wide variety of classes you can take in a management and leadership space that I think it just really pairs well with, because marketing is so human focused, management and leadership kind of then gives you the nuts and bolts of how then humans interact with each other. So to me, I got lucky. I stumbled upon it because that class fit my schedule, but I would encourage all of you to, if you're looking for something or interested in it, to stumble upon it yourselves, because it was really couldn't be more happy with what I'm doing now.
Well, you're a great salesperson for that. So they're going to love you over in in that department, but your enthusiasm. But that's a good way of explaining it too, because I think it's, I think it pairs well with almost anything you do, right? In terms of all the different things that you're discussing in that class and all the different topical areas. And I think a lot of our students want to just try and define what they can do with certain things, but it's nice to think of it as purely like this is like has that educational value no matter what you decide to do, right? That having that understanding of organizations, and I assume that you do like a lot more like sort of theoretical knowledge and teamwork based within those classes as well.
Yeah, it's very it's a lot of it's almost, I guess you could call it human relation theory, like a high level, weird academic way to put it, because it's very much, the leadership class, for example, there was a lot of things that we looked at as far as a leader, what are the best approaches you can take to leadership, and what are the, for different people, like one leader can't operate the same way for different people in different situations. So it's a lot of work on emotional intelligence, social intelligence, relational intelligence. So it's even if you don't want to do HR work like that, it's just things that you'll know about yourself and how you fit into different scenarios and groups that are just so useful for anywhere from finance to marketing to even, if I were a teacher or something like that, like a professor, I would love to have this knowledge, because that's the ultimate leader, like in a classroom where you have to manage your relationship with everybody. It's just so applicable to a lot of things that you can do in the future. So I can't speak highly enough about it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I think, Natalie, did I get to you yet? I don't think I have, right? Okay.
No, yeah. So I'm just gonna echo what everybody else said on marketing.
Yeah.
Pretty much to a T, what Jenny said about it being a combination of both analytical and creative. What I would emphasize is that marketing classes are relatively easy to do well in, but a marketing career is not. Recruiting is really, really staggered. So while all of my friends had timelines with accounting or finance, I recruited from September to April my sophomore year. And I was asking companies for extensions, trying to figure out everything else. It's really something that you have to put work in. It's a little bit less guided in terms of the recruiting process. But other than that, I really love it, and I'll just echo what everyone else said on marketing. As for business analytics, similarly to, I think, the information systems co-concentration, it's the kind of thing that I think pairs well with everything. You're not by any means trying to become a true analyst of statistics, but instead maybe like a translator or somebody that's data fluent to communicate between management and like people that truly understand like the code or the statistics. I find it pairs really well with marketing in terms of like assessing trends. And I have friends that also have it co-concentrated along with finance, with accounting. I think it really just like adds an edge to have that like fluency, even to just put it on your resume and show that you're like trying to open your horizons to new softwares. Especially if you liked the, I don't know what they call it now, but computers and management
Digital
course,
technology.
that it's very heavily, it's very heavily echoed throughout the rest of the major. A lot of my classes are just Excel on steroids, essentially. And it is a lot of statistics, but I would say don't let that scare you away. I didn't love business stats, but I love the rest of the concentration, and they take the time. The professors are really willing to like go over the basic statistical stuff and remind you of everything you may have missed because maybe you're taking it 2 or 3 years later.
That's a good point. And you know, just I know also just doing career advising that marketing, if you look at like, so marketing is probably one of those industries that has probably, you know, undergone the most drastic change over the last, let's say 8 to 10 years with the focus on digital marketing. And, you know, finding those opportunities, if you pair it with something like information systems or business analytics, you know, firms cannot hire enough people as data analysts. But there's not that many jobs that are just data analysts, right? Like, you know, being able to interpret and understand the data you're looking at and make decisions based on it is such a key factor in so many industries, but especially across such a broad spectrum of marketing. So it can really open doors for you, you know, because in the past, there's only so many opportunities for like a marketing assistant type thing or whatever, you know, like, so, and you can't really do product marketing right out of undergrad necessarily without an MBA. So that has opened so many doors for our students that are doing that, you know, within analytics. It's such a high growth area. So I'm glad you encourage students that may gravitate towards marketing because they're really steering away from some of they maybe think quantitative, but it's different than that, right? They'll learn, you know, it's different than a finance course in that sense. Like when you're doing data analytics, I think it's important to understand the difference there.
Yeah, it's more about being able to interpret the results and like run something very basic. I think like, I mean, I've even used stuff like running a really basic regression in a software in my internship last summer, and like bosses were incredibly impressed, and that's something you learn like week 1 of the major. So even just having those like really small hard skills like go a long way, especially like in an interview, being able to draw on them or on the class projects, things like that.
Great, thank you, awesome. So, and then I think we've got, Jing, I asked you that question about you already broke it down so well for us. Okay, I want to go into sort of the last thing that I think will be helpful, which is just, I think Jenny, you're probably the only one I asked this so far, was you should look at this, you should consider this concentration if you are blank, or you should stay away from this concentrate. For some people, it's easier to say, you're not going to want to do this if you don't like numbers or something. And that's an obvious example. But if that's something, thinking about like, this is a great concentration if you like blank. How's that? And why don't I just keep it on you, Natalie, and then we'll just go in the other direction.
Yeah, sure. Marketing, I would say, I think everybody should take at least one marketing elective, even if you're not interested in it, because I think in upper level management, it's necessary for strategy purposes. But I would say stay away from marketing if you really need structure. I think most marketing classes, careers, recruiting cycles, all of them are like a little bit unstructured, a little bit more like balls in your court to handle the workload, and to, whether it be memorize something or analyze a case. Stay away from it if you need something like really hard and rigid that's like going to tell you when you need to do things and what you need to know exactly for the test. It's much more interpretive. But if you like that interpretive stuff, and if you like being able to like give your opinions on something or really contribute something from an outside world or an observation, discussion-based classes, I would lean towards it. And as for business analytics, if you're really not computer literate, I would actually encourage it, because I think it's something that everybody needs, and spending the extra time to work on it, especially in like those entry-level classes that teach you like stuff about Excel, which you're going to use in every workplace, they're really valuable. I honestly couldn't come up with something to discourage you from a business analytics co-concentration. I think it's incredibly valuable to add to really any concentration.
Thanks for saying that too. I agree. It's like, you can do it now, or you can do it in your job where you're being evaluated. It's better to get a C in college and get like canned in a job because you can't keep up. So, one way of putting it, but, when you can learn it in a supportive environment that's geared at teaching you that versus really being forced to do it, which so many people are. So many people in the analytics side are it's just getting thrust on them in their job, and they're really trying to catch up. So those are great points. So thank you. Jacob, I'll go to you because you were nodding on the marketing thing about the structure, I assume.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what Natalie has to say about marketing, because it's a very, even like, especially I kind of realized it in classes and then really realized it applying for jobs, because it's not like, while I'm not jealous of all the stuff that like finance kids have to go through in their interviews and all that, I'm kind of jealous that there is a schedule to what they do, because with marketing, it's a lot of like, I spent a week right at the beginning of the summer just looking at companies and like going to their websites and emailing people and saying, hey, like, I'm graduating at this time. Are there any openings you might have? Because they don't tend to do a good job of posting things or keeping to a hard and fast schedule. So I totally agree with what Natalie has to say about that. As far as management and leadership, I'd say if you like people and you like working with people and having conversations and like, I guess, relationship type, how do you interact with people? I'd say management and leadership is the concentration for you, because that's really, when you get down to brass tacks, like that's what it comes down to, is how you interact with others, act with leaders and things of that nature. I'd also recommend that if you're interested in it, be ready to take a lot of a broad spectrum of classes that all have to do with management and leadership, because like I'm taking a strategic management and an entrepreneurial management class right now, which are while they have some of the same core principles, there are a lot of different examples and even different takes on some similar issues. So I say if you are ready to learn and have just broad interests and like people, I think M&L would be perfect for somebody like that.
Jacob, there was a question about who you took for leadership. Somebody asked that.
Yeah, I saw that. I messaged.
Oh, you saw it. Okay.
If anybody else is wondering, it was leadership with Professor Judy Claire. I'm actually TAing one of her sections now, and it's a great class. It's a great intro to the concentration.
Great. Okay, thanks. Great. Jenny, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can just add something really quickly about concentrating in marketing. And then if you want to also concentrate in business analytics and info systems, there's actually a pretty wide range of classes that cover both the elective requirements for like marketing and info systems or marketing and business analytics. So for instance, I'm in a design thinking class right now with Professor Dickinson. And actually it covers my elective requirement for both of my concentrations. So I guess it's just like another thing to throw out there, just when you're thinking about if you want to pair marketing with anything.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thanks. And just everybody who's on the call too, you guys, I'll make everybody's contact info available. So I'll put it in the chat in a sec on a doc so you can have it all in one place. But feel free, these guys are all co-hosts too, so you can just chat with them, and as Jacob did already, answer a question, so great. Okay, Ryan, so the question is about, you know, you shouldn't do this, or you should do this, you'll like this concentration, in your case, either finance or real estate, if you're blank, and stay away if blank.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so Jacob stole what I was going to say, honestly, about management and leadership, because real estate is a people's business. You have to be social, not have to be social, but it definitely works in your favor if you're social and can keep relationships, because real estate's very heavily based in relationships. So if you're outgoing, you enjoy networking, which is something that I guess not a lot of people do. I found that I really enjoyed having conversations with people, but it really helps your career go a long way, mostly because like real estate's a pretty niche business still, I would say. And it's similar to marketing in this fact that finding real estate internships and careers is a little bit harder. It's not as structured as finance. So you got to be willing to jump on the phone with people, do what Jacob did, and like reach out to firms and say, hey, like I'm a rising junior or sophomore, really interested in your firm. Like, are there any opportunities for someone in my position? And then to stay away from real estate, I mean, I would say if you don't like having fun, I would stay away from real estate because it is a very fun business. There's a lot of like social events, like, I don't know, happy hours and golf outings and stuff like that that are just part of your day, because it's basically ongoing networking all the time and it never really stops. So that would be the one thing I would say, is if maybe you find yourself being a little more introverted or antisocial, you might want to stay away from real estate, but it is a lot of fun. So
Great. You guys are all good salespeople for your, great. Jillian, you're up next.
Yeah, so I'll talk about operations too, because I know now it wasn't really touched on.
Right, thanks.
I didn't really know what operations was, to be honest, when I was a freshman and even a sophomore. And I think it's a really great concentration because it's a good way to understand kind of like the backbone of business. So operations, some people see it as like matching supply and demand. Some people see it as like efficiency and logistics and transportation and getting goods from point A to point B, but it's really strategy based. And although you can do a ton of calculations and understand like capacity and things that are important to understand, you also get a really great view of strategy as a whole. So I would say go into an operations concentration if you really like someone said before, like that combination of like qualitative and quantitative and specifically strategy. And then for managing for social impact, I think like if you enjoyed Portico or you just want to use your business degree to have a social impact in the world, I mean, it's in the name and that's really what it prepares you to do. It gives you a really great foundation. Or maybe you don't want to dedicate your whole career to social impact directly. I think it's just a really great concentration. It gives you something to talk about during interviews. It shows that you have a real passion for the world and for people. And I think that goes a really long way. People on my resume, they always say like, what is that? What does that mean? I didn't know you could study that. And I've had a ton of conversations during interviews where we just talk about that program. So I would say study managing for social impact if you want to, kind of have a more business sense of how the world works in like a social environmental lens. And stay away from it if you want to stay on something that's super rigid. I really had to fight for all my internships and all the opportunities because it wasn't like finance or accounting where everything was laid out. A lot of the times I had to intern during the spring semester because that's just the only time that sustainability internships were available to undergraduates. So if you're willing to carve your own path, it's definitely worth it, but it's not as structured as some of the other concentrations.
Right, good. I'm glad you brought that up. So like a lot of other things, so, you know, it's worth it when you find it, but you have to work at it. And it's not that clear cut. So something like that can, you know, there's every single organization out there, this is an important emphasis for it, right? But it's not necessarily going to be like, you're not going to see that job on Handshake necessarily, right? So, right. Great, thanks, Jillian. Jing.
Yeah, I want to say probably accounting for finance and consulting is the perfect concentration if we wanted to pair it with any other concentration. It can pair perfectly with finance, marketing, or any others concentration. Because I think at the end of the day, anything in business and management, we need to understand the fundamentals of this company. What is the cash flow of this company? How well it will do in the next 10 to 15 years. And another thing that I want to mention is also depends on personal interest. For example, if you really want to do accounting for a CPA, that is more on the focus of being accountant is to basically looking at the past performance. So all the financial statements are telling a story of the past. But on the other side of the business, if you're being an analyst, you wanted to look at a company in the next 10 to 20 years. So then a lot of courses that this concentration can provide you is more in the forecasting side of it. So you can just look at, I think CSUN website have a list of different courses you can take, and you just look at it like, if I'm really interested in audit financial statements, then you probably wanted to go for the CPA route. But if you wanted to be probably doing investment banking, you wanted to do portfolio management, or even though in the next years you wanted to do investments, whether it's private equity or venture capital, it would be really great to have the very solid fundamentals and accounting. And also the other part is if you don't really enjoy taking the time to look at financial statements, you don't really like numbers, it will be a really hard concentration to do. Because a lot of classes that you have to take financial statement analysis, basically as you go into the financial statements and find all of those mistakes or anything that might cause any, I would say, accounting distortions that create the undervalue or overvalue of this company. So basically it needs to take really long time to look at companies in terms of its financials. So yeah.
Oh, that's important to mention, yeah. And we're gonna go to Kyle. Oh, Kyle, you're on mute. Let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
It wouldn't let me unmute myself.
Oh, that's our, okay.
Because I know we're almost at time, but I think
yeah.
If you're a very curious person or creative, I think entrepreneurship is a really great co-concentration. And I really think it can be paired with anything. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable. I know that in the previous jobs I've had, you kind of wear a lot of different hats. One day I could be doing data analytics. Another day I could be like producing a video in Premiere Pro. It's kind of random. And like Jillian said, there's not really like a clear cut path. There's not like an entrepreneurship job, which I think is also the beauty. You can kind of figure out what you want to do. And there's a lot of lot of room to go. And then quickly, just for IS, I know Jenny talked about this, but if you don't like numbers or like you're not great with technology, it might not be the best fit for you. But I think if you're interested in technology, then it's a really good place to get fundamentals. You don't even have to be like that excited about coding and stuff like that, but it's a really good way to also just learn how to think logically, which again leads into the entrepreneurship.
Great. Thank you. And Grace.
Yeah, I would say an accounting concentration specifically for the CPA, just because that's kind of what I know from experience, is it, like, I don't even remember why I really chose accounting, other than everything I learned, I just really got excited about it. It also only opens doors. Like, having your CPA does not close any doors. Like, I know people who have started in accounting, in audit at a Big Four firm, and then went to a bank for investment banking. And like, that's natural. It's not natural. It's not like you'd have to go through a whole bunch of like other classes or whatever. Like, you would have a good background knowledge in order to start investment banking if that's what you wanted to do after. I would say, I mean, at least if you didn't hate financial accounting, like, keep taking accounting courses. They're so crucial to any job in business that you might have. Just having this background knowledge would be so important. And yeah, just like, it is structured and very kind of straightforward at times, but also, especially through accounting, I saw how much collaboration there is and how much like social, like, interaction you have as well. It's not like you'll just be sitting at the desk all day and you'll never even talk to your coworkers or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like the main reason why I chose it and am continuing to pursue it is just because it only opens doors and gives you like a broader view of companies.
Great. Thank you so much. So I think what we're going to do is we're at time. It's always hard to get through a panel when you have 6 people within an hour. So I sent out the everybody's email in the chat. So I think you guys, probably the best thing to do for everybody who's on the call is just to, feel free to send any questions to, I assume all of you guys are okay with that, with our participants here. So if any of you guys have any questions specifically for any of our panelists about the co-concentrations or concentrations, please just reach out to them. But you guys did a great job of really giving a good synopsis of it. I'm sure all of our students know you can find all that information on the undergrad website and what classes to take, but it's just so much better hearing you guys, the synopsis that you guys have provided in terms of, really what gets you excited about it and what you need to know and what it leads to. And then for the rest of our sophomores in the class, a lot of you will have questions about career fields, but we'll be covering a lot of those in the upcoming Tuesday night panels. So next Tuesday night is finance, not banking, because there's a lot of information that we do later on about banking. So we wanted students to know about other opportunities. So that'll be next week's topic. And we actually will be covering like entrepreneurship and technology and some of the fields so you guys can get some exposure, and those will be featuring alumni working in the career fields as well. So we won't have any panels as big as this many people. There'll usually be about 4 people. So, but to all of our seniors, our fabulous class of 21, thank you so much, you guys. It was really good information, and stay safe. And Ryan, thank you for putting up with the fire drill. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.